Hey fam, so glad you found us. Come on in and get comfy and cozy on the couch. My name is Dr. Crytal-Ann England, and this is my co-host.
Jordon Hendrieth, licensed clinical social worker. And we are the faces of Melanin Culture from the couch. Just a few little things about myself. Like I said, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been in this field of mental health for over 18 years now. And I've also been in private practice over the last 7, going on 8 years. I am a husband. I am a father of 2 girls, a girl dad. Some of the things I truly enjoy about life, I'm really big into sports, traveling, food, and just trying to push myself and experience new things. One of the few things that I've been into lately, the last couple of years, is actually skiing, which has kind of got me a little bit out of my comfort zone. But that's a little bit about me, and we'll learn more about myself later. But I also want to give some time for Dr. Crystal to talk about herself too.
Thank you, Jordan. Yes, so I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I have also been in the field for over 18 years, and I specialize in working. I do a lot of work with mothers and daughters, as well as families, lots of couples work. I am also a mother of 2 little girls, and I have a husband, and we currently just moved to Georgia. So that's been exciting. Some things about me. I love to write. I love to read. I'm always listening to a podcast, and I am really enthralled by nature and how human interaction mimics nature, and the way that animals and the natural systems are a lot like family systems. Today, on our first episode, Jordan and I are going to talk a little bit about our why. What got us into wanting to be therapists in the first place, right? Like, what got us here? We are going to share that with you, and we are so excited that you guys are here. All right, Jordan, take it away.
All right, so mine is kind of like that's like a funnier story, right? When I first got into this field, I didn't know what it was. I'll be honest, I didn't know what mental health was like to that extent. And at the time, I was in undergrad. I was at Florida A&M FAMU, so go
Okay,
Rattlers.
the Rattlers.
And I just needed a job. It was one of those things. I was a poor college student. I needed a job. My friend of mine had, was working at this residential facility. He said, "Man, I could, just I get you on the supply. I'll hook you up." So I get the job. Fast forward, I'm on this because it was a lockdown facility. It was an inpatient unit with like, kids from like 4 up until like 17. So I'm on the boys' side. My first day, I was working at this 3 to 11 shift, and everything's going smoothly until it wasn't. It was like it was like close to the end of the shift, kind of like time for them to kind of shut down, go to bed, and they just threw a riot. Like they just started like acting out, throwing stuff everywhere, like
Wait,
mop
so Jordan,
buckets.
what are you thinking at this point? Like, oh hell no, we gotta go. Okay, wait, where's the nearest exit? What are you thinking?
I didn't know. I was kind of in shock. I didn't know what to think because I was like, "What happened?" Like everything was going good until it wasn't. Like, and like I said, I was kind of intrigued too because I was just like, "What is this?"
Yeah.
And finally, like it's funny because like by the time like we got them to calm down, like one of the people that had been there for a while had to come assist, like a supervisor or lead staff, and they listened to them. And I was like, "Oh, okay, like this is something different." And when I learned more about what was going on, I realized like it was a lot of trauma based. This was like
Mm,
foster care. This was like abuse. Like this was kids with like some really long histories in their files and
yeah.
things like that. They had a story, every one of them. And I realized they weren't just acting out because we were new staff. It was like that's kind of like part of their behavior from the beginning, whether I was there or not.
Hmm.
So that kind of led me to do like more research on the field. And when I realized that there weren't a lot of providers or people in the field that look like us, that was something that really kind of like pushed me to do more research and kind of figure out, hey, how could I impact this possibly? And the rest is kind of history.
Yeah, but especially, Black men. There
Yeah,
are not many Black male therapists out there. So,
exactly, exactly.
I'm kind of glad they threw a coup and you got to see
Yeah,
you got to see.
yeah, it's something
Yeah.
different. Definitely something different.
That's awesome. So then, okay, after you had that experience in the lockdown facility, then what led you to go on and pursue this license in LCSW?
So I think it was just more research. Obviously, I had some other experiences with residential that wasn't as pleasant. And I did some case management work, and I was just like, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, what else is there? What else is there? And I actually met, I guess you could say, my mentor now in Tampa when I moved out there and was working, and he was already kind of licensed. Well, he was licensed at the time. It was a therapist. He was just starting his practice, and I learned a lot from him. We worked together for several years, and that definitely kind of motivated me to go back to school and get licensed and get my master's degree for sure.
Awesome. And what is he a person of color? And how did you meet
Yes,
him?
yes, a black male therapist. I met him at a job I was at. It was weird. It's kind of like a trifecta. So it was a residential facility, a
Okay.
group home, and a school, all on the same site.
How
And
do you
as
do
you can
that?
imagine, yeah, it was a lot going on at that place. Like I said, I won't say names or anything like that, but it was yeah, it was a great idea probably in the grand scheme of things. But as far as working that out and making that work for everybody, yeah, not so much.
Oh my goodness. And here you are now. What has been one of the greatest, I guess, lessons for you in the work that you do? Are there any moments that like really stand out for you?
I think is hearing some of the feedback sometimes, right, from people who are thankful for like what they've been able to accomplish. Hearing that people are like, man, I've been looking for somebody that looks like me, those type of things, or man, I'm thankful I came, this has been a big help, those type of things like that. I think those are always the moments because how it is like in our field, sometimes we don't always get a ton of that, like we don't, it's different from other service fields where we like, you get to kind of advertise, oh, leave a Google review, and all that stuff because we do something that's unique and different. So it's not always like that. So to hear positive feedback and things like that is always good.
Yes, you're right because for other, when you go to your CPA, you can read online the Google reviews. In
Hmm.
our line of work, there are some therapists who do it, and we might talk about that on another episode. But it's probably not the most ethical thing. If your therapist has Google reviews, probably not very ethical, right? So you're
Right,
right.
right.
This is very unique to this particular profession to when you get that feedback directly from the client saying how much you've changed their life or how much you've impacted their growth and that's huge.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah. So when you think about what you want, how you want to use your platform and this platform, right? What are your thoughts? What are you hoping for with this platform and using your voice and using that degree in your license?
Well, I think this could be a space where we can give a different perspective from what's out there at times. And what I mean by that is sometimes I get concerned when see certain people speak on things or kind of they put things in the world like this one size fits all model, or like they say things and I'm just like, man, what's the research behind that? That's your opinion, which is okay, but like, what's the research behind that?
Hmm.
So it's things like that. Sometimes I hear, and I just kind of like, I wish somebody could speak on that. So I want to speak on some of these things, from our perspective, professionally, and then also personally too. I think we can just provide something that's very unique to what's already out there.
Yes. Our perspective as clinicians, but also as, for you being a father, being a black male therapist, being a black man, right? And
Hmm.
having being married and having two little girls. So your perspective is so unique. And it's not, I mean, it's wonderful to have, all of the different opinions, but it's different when what you have to say is actually embedded in your expertise and that you have because you have been in this field for over 18 years, right? So I
Right,
love
right.
that, Jordon. Awesome.
So, Dr. Crystal, tell us your journey. How did you get started into this field? What kind of made you pivot to this direction?
Oh, goodness. So believe it or not, I think I was one of those kids who always knew. Um, Ever since I was little, I always said like I wanted to be a psychologist doctor. That's what I called it, right? Like in
Okay.
my little kid mind. I
Right,
remember,
right.
so my dad and I, we would go to the mall and we would sit in the food court. And so we would make up stories about people's lives. So my dad would like pretend like he was like the husband and that was walking by. He'd be like making up little whatever, like the guy's story, and I'd be like the other lady's voice, and we'd how can I say, we would observing human behavior has been
Hmm.
something I've been doing forever. And I just didn't
Wow.
even know that's what I was doing. Right.
Wow.
Even when I got to eighth grade, I remember it was our eighth grade dance. We were at school and I sat down on top of the tables and I was kind of just like watching everybody dancing and interacting. And I remember my teacher coming over to me and saying, like, you're very observant. You're always watching. Don't ever lose that. Like I love that about you, that you're always taking in information and observing like what's happening in the room and who's doing like she's like, I love that about you. You know, I hope one day you'll go into psychology. And I never really I think that was the first time I had like a name for it because when I was younger, I never really had like a name for it. I just knew that I really enjoyed human behavior and interaction. It fascinated me. Not to mention, I come from a huge family, Jordan. My mom is one of 15 kids. My dad
Wow.
is one of six.
Okay.
So I have a ginormous family. So I was always very curious about like just watching people watching, right?
You have people to
But
watch.
when I had a lot of people to watch. And some of them people, woo, there was missing marbles. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was real interesting. And when I got to college, I did not. Well, first of all, in high school, I always felt like high school was really hard for me. I never felt like I fit in. I never felt like I didn't even know a direction. I
Mm.
happened to get into FAMU, and it's because it was the only university at the time that had rolling admissions, and all the other schools I applied for was too late because I'm first gen, right? A first
Mm.
generation. Mom is from South America, dad is from Jamaica. My parents did not help me with any of my paperwork because they didn't know how. So all my paperwork was late. The only school
Mm.
that accepted me was FAMU. And when I got there, I did horribly and I did not do well. Like my whole it was horrible. So I'm saying all that
Yeah.
to say, fast forward, it wasn't until I got my when I came back home and I got my degree at FIU, graduated from there, and I was like, I really want to do a master's degree. And I went to Nova and they paid for my school, but I was going for clinical psychology because I always wanted to be a psychologist.
Right.
It started to feel very sterile,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And long story short, this lady was like, hey, I think you might be a better candidate for marriage and family therapy. Why don't you come and look at this program? And I instantly fell in love with it. Just the idea about systems and how we all belong to these multiple systems and that we're not necessarily a diagnosis, which is a lot of what psychology is like, you have depression, so these are the things that you need to do. Marriage and family therapy gave me an opportunity to look at the whole individual and where that individual came from, the system at which that individual was created. And that just felt like home for me. So that was a long rant to say, all of that to say, it was a long, kind of like a long, bumpy journey. And
Yeah.
once I got my master's, I loved it so much. I was like, I have to do a PhD. I love this. This just feels so good to me. And I went on to study more.
Is it what you thought it would be compared to when you were a kid versus now, and which based on your experience now?
I think it's even better because you know, when I was a kid, I never saw people like us being doctors, right? Like that was I mean, let me not lie. Not in psychology,
Right.
right? Not in the clinical sense of mental health. No.
Hmm.
I never saw people that looked like us in the clinical sense in mental health. So I kind of always just thought like, oh, I'd go to college and that would be enough. And I would just get like a bachelor's or a master's, not knowing that I would fall in love with it so much that I would go even further. So I think honestly, this has been beyond my dreams.
And I guess like going forward, like what do you view this platform as? Like, how do you want this to contribute to what you're already doing or your voice in this field? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I see this platform as being an opportunity for you and I to really speak from our place of expertise as mental health clinicians, but also just as people, right? Like that, okay, yeah, we are mental health clinicians and we have this huge, between the two of us, we have 36 plus years of experience, right? Like that's so much. And we're also humans. And there's other parts to us, right? I
Right.
think that's the part that's really important too, is that while we are therapists and while we are experts in our field, we're also humans, right? I'm also a mother. I'm also a wife. I'm also a daughter. And I think that part is important too, is sharing our personal life experiences and helping other people see the humanity. Like, your therapist is a human and we got opinions. Let me tell you.
Exactly. Definitely. Definitely.
Thank you so much, family, for tuning in to our first episode and introduction of Melanin Culture from the Couch. We are so looking forward to seeing you guys in the future. You can like, subscribe, and follow us on various platforms. We are on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. If you have any questions or you want to put any comments, go ahead and write it below, and we look forward to seeing you guys next time. Peace, love, and melanin.